Time now for the Sports Six-Pack with Andrew Rogers.
You know the drill. Send in your questions right here to the Sports Six-Pack. We're on Hurrdat Sports, and we're here to deliver some of those questions, those answers that you desperately need right here on this podcast, the Sports Six-Pack. Shaner's got your questions. We've corralled them, and now it's time to get to them. Shaner, go ahead.
Question number 1.
What was your biggest takeaway from Nebraska's loss to Minnesota?
Chubba Purdy was in too long.
No, well, I mean, that's plain and simple right there.
Yeah, he was just in too long. You gave both quarterbacks even reps in practice all week. So at some point, you expected to use them both. But why wait for Chubba to go 6 straight drives of 3 plays? They had one drive that was 6 plays and resulted in a punt, but then 6 straight drives, 3 and outs. 6 straight. You look back on those non-scoring plays and you think, that's not what we saw at the beginning of that football game. Nebraska ran all over Minnesota early on. Anthony Grant got his legs going, 6 for 60. Very good. He had a great misdirection run as well. Well, Chubba Purdy looked comfortable in the pocket too. But then Minnesota started getting to Purdy. Purdy started making some third down throws that, frankly, should have led to more turnovers than it actually did. You bring in Logan Smothers when Minnesota goes up 20-10, and it's like, well, why now? Why'd you stick with Chubba through 3 quarters and then say, hey, let's go to Logan Smothers now because things aren't going right? Why wasn't that noticed earlier on? That was my biggest takeaway, my biggest concern by the coaching staff in that football game and that loss to Minnesota.
Question number 2.
All right. Which is worse, throwing 2 INTs on the goal line and losing to the Lions? Or blowing, yeah, it's pretty bad. Or blowing a 17-point lead?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that's kind of bad, too.
That one hit Shaner at heart.
Yeah. Or being talked about as the strongest team in the AFC, then losing to the Jets.
Man, all 3 are pretty bad. Pretty bad. Now, the Bills, I would say, are third on that list because the Jets at least have the best defense in football. Now, when you hear the Bills losing to the Jets, if we heard that 2 years ago, then that would be the worst thing on this list. But frankly, Shaner,
you're going with the blowing a 17-point lead? Because that stinks. I mean, really. And it's not the first time, it's not the second time, but it's the third time, as we all know. I mean, because that was a big thing yesterday that was talked about.
Yeah.
Also, was it who are they going to fire first? Are they going to fire the quarterback first? Or are they going to fire the coach? Which coach?
And I got to tell
should
you,
Mark Davis just sell the team? I mean, they were just bad. It was bad. It was a bad day. It was an ugly day for Raider football yesterday.
Yeah, I think it was only a 10-point lead, if I remember correctly, but the Jags are who you lost to. And that's a big deal when you don't score any points in the second half and you get outscored 17-0. But frankly, this is what I was going to say. I was going to say I'm going away from your Raiders and saying, Aaron Rodgers, why aren't they running the football on the 4-yard line and trying to get into the end zone? Russell Wilson proved that in the Super Bowl. You run the football when you're that close. I know A.J. Dillon struggled to get in on that very first drive that led to the INT. Keep running it at the Lions. The Lions have one of the worst rushing defenses. What are you doing, Green Bay?
So you're a run the damn football guy?
Run the damn ball, Shaner. Run it. That was worse. 15-9 loss to the Lions. That was worse.
Question number 3.
60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Which decade do you love the most and why?
Seeing as I was born in 1997, this doesn't seem like a great question for me to answer, but I'm going to say the 80s because I love 80s music.
That's pretty good. I mean, there's a lot of nostalgic things from the 80s that a lot of people gravitate towards right now, whether it be movies or music or just items that they had when they were a kid from the time. 80s is a pretty popular thing right now.
Yeah, that that would be me. I've been an 80s music fan, though, for as long as I can remember. High school, even, I was a big 80s guy. On our warm-up tape for basketball was Come On Eileen by the Dexy Midnight Runners.
Mm-hmm.
And also, don't forget, Cardinals won the World Series in 82.
Well, I was going to say, and when it comes to sports, that's a decade that a lot of people
Bears won in 85.
Well, a lot of people go back to that as in, you have the Jordan era, you have the baseball era, which a lot of people really like that 80s baseball. Mm-hmm. There was just a lot of things there in sports that really kind of sold it as being one of the best decades.
Take me back.
Take you back?
I would love to see what living in the 80s looked like. Fill me in.
I was like 10. I was, I was playing in the dirt with my Hot Wheels.
Hot Wheels were around in the 80s?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
What did they look like?
Just whatever. Just little chunks of metal.
Yeah.
With plastic wheels.
Like every good Hot Wheels car.
Exactly.
Question number 4.
All right, college basketball starts today. Who's your way too early NCAA champion?
Is it too cliche to say Creighton? Is it?
Everybody else is saying it.
Why not? They returned 5 of its top 7 scorers. This is a team that can really soar this year. They have no gaps. I think it's a very special group of kids, but I would actually venture to say Creighton would end up in the Final Four, maybe not be the NCAA champion. Give me Kentucky this year. They may not look like an NCAA championship caliber team, but they get Oscar Tshiebwe back. He also went to the high school in West Virginia, Kennedy Catholic. That was my high school in St. Louis, Kennedy Catholic. Doesn't exist anymore, but it was. So I feel some type of connection there with Oscar. But they have elite defense, and defense wins championships. Also a cliched thing to say. There's really no holes left unfilled for this Kentucky team either. I like Kentucky.
Question number 5.
Are you for or against daylight savings time?
I'm against it whenever I lose my hour of sleep, but I'm for it when I gain it back.
I was gonna say, shouldn't that be more of a question that's brought up during the other one when it's the other time?
Yes.
Because that's where you lose your hour. You get the extra hour over the weekend, so.
Yeah, but I like the idea of daylight savings time because in those warmer months, I'm more of a night owl. Now, frankly, that's not okay for me in this job because I will have to.
You'll get used to it.
Yep.
It'll be fine.
Now, that's why I think I'd be against daylight savings time, though, because then light comes earlier, right?
Right.
That's what happens. So, and that's such a confusing thing. I don't know. I just keep it consistent. I'm Mr. Consistency. I'd rather not have a change where I have to set my oven clock back, my microwave clock back, my car clock back. Just keep it consistent across the board.
Well, I was just gonna ask you. So, being your age, you probably don't have like a grandfather clock that you have to set. You don't have like the alarm clocks that you have to set. So it's just those couple clocks. That's not too bad.
No, it's not bad. But I'd probably say I'm against daylight. Well, I'm for daylight savings time, but I'm against the latter.
Question number 6.
Do you think Tennessee? I don't know what that is. Every time I hear that, it makes me laugh.
The burp?
Yeah.
It's you.
I know, right? Do you think Tennessee was snubbed out of the top 4 after its loss to Georgia?
I do.
Really?
I think they should have been placed at 4. Georgia going up to 1. The undisputed pick. Ohio State remains at 2. Michigan jumping to 3 was smart. Tennessee should have been 4. TCU should have been 5.
Well, and then a lot of people are saying don't count them out. They could still pull it off at the end here.
Tennessee?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, they could if they went out.
Right.
And TCU loses because Clemson lost, because Bama picked up another loss. As long as Tennessee wins out and TCU finds a way to lose one football game, I agree. I think Tennessee gets in just because of their strength of schedule.
Yeah, I mean it's gonna be a very interesting close to the college football season coming up here.
And
a little bit of drama is good,
right?
I mean,
frankly, I like TCU. I like Duggan a lot. He's a local kid, so I'm a big fan of him. I like the idea of having a new team.
I was going to say
in the Final Four.
It's nice to see a different team in there that isn't your standard LSU, Alabama,
right,
Ohio State, blah, blah, blah.
Tennessee's kind of the same way, right?
Yeah.
So I think it comes down to then who would I rather watch play in the college football playoff? And that would be Tennessee for me. Tennessee's just a more special group of players. They play in a tougher conference, and you have a Heisman candidate, like one of the top-tier Heisman candidates still, despite the loss to Georgia, Hendon Hooker, in the college football playoff. He deserves to be there. It should be Tennessee.
Feeling tipsy yet? Catch more of Andrew Rogers from 7 to 9 in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio.